As a small business owner, have you ever felt overwhelmed by the pressure of choosing the right hire or leading a team? Or have you ever found yourself tolerating a bad hire because you fear trying and failing again as you repeat the hiring process? If so, you're not alone, and you are in the right place. Welcome to the Growing Your Team podcast. The Growing Your Team podcast teaches business owners like you to expand your unique business by teaching you to master the hiring and team management process. Hiring and managing a team does not have to be a challenge. You just have to learn to do it right. And the Growing Your Team podcast teaches you how to become a confident leader who hires right every single time. Now, let's jump into the show where each episode you will learn tips on how to identify what type of help you need on your team, how to source amazing candidates, how to conduct interviews that lead you to your ideal team member, how to onboard successfully, and how to lead every person in your business so you have a team of rock stars who you are happy to pay every single paycheck. So let's jump in and teach you how to hire like a pro. Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. Today, I have on guest Amanda Crowell. Dr. Amanda Crowell helps individuals pursue their great work without sacrificing their well-being. She is a cognitive psychiatrist, keynote speaker, and the author of Great Work, Do What Matters Most Without Sacrificing Everything Else, now in its second edition. She is also the creator of the Great Work Journal, host of the podcast Unleashing Your Great Work, and the founder of the Great Work series, a slate of monthly community classes that explore how to do work that feels meaningful, aligned, and lights you up. Amanda's TEDx talk, 3 Reasons You Aren't Doing What You Say You Will Do, has been viewed nearly 2 million times and was featured on TED's Ideas blog and TED Shorts. Her work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, NPR, Thrive Global, and MSN. She lives in New Jersey with her husband, 2 awesome kids, and a remarkable Newfiepoo named Ruthie. These days, she splits her time between educating future teachers, coaching creative professionals, and helping individuals and organizations bring their great work to life. As I'm sure you can guess with that bio, we're talking about great work today in this podcast episode. Amanda and I are digging into what does great work really mean? How do you focus yourself and your team on doing great work, and how to avoid those things that get in your way, like the mindset traps of perfectionism, procrastination, and the fear of letting go. That from this podcast, you know, sometimes we don't delegate because we fear letting go. So you'll learn in this episode how to really focus on the great work that matters to you and your business between both what's on your plate and the work that needs to be on your team members' plates. So let's jump into the episode. Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Growing Your Team podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. To kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I can. So I am Dr. Amanda Crowell. I'm a cognitive psychologist and the author of the book Great Work. So I have always been, when I was getting my PhD and even as far back as actually I can remember, very interested in why people behave the way they do, and maybe most of all, what it takes for a person to change their mind. So as a young person, I was interested relative to schools, like how do we help people believe that they have more potential and promise than they maybe were told or have come to believe. And then focused my effort on schools, and then realized that a lot of what I know about schools was also really relevant to just adult people trying to live their best lives. That led to a TEDx talk that is about procrastination, basically, like what are the 3 reasons that we procrastinate doing what matters to us. which went more or less viral, which was very exciting, and led me to write the book, Great Work, which brings together the mindsets of the TEDx talk along with just the basic how do we go about doing the work that matters the most to us? Because most of us put it off or it's the first thing to go. And then what stops us from doing that work. So that's where I'm at now with the book is out in its second edition. There's a journal, there are classes. Like, so I'm basically a cognitive psychology a psychologist obsessed with getting more people to do the work that matters the most to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like, ooh, I feel like there's so much I want to ask about, so much I want to dive into because I think I've really been focusing a lot on this within my own business. It's like, what work matters to me? Like, what type of projects do I actually want to take on? But then there's all that work that has to be done as a business owner that brings you money and the stuff that needs to be done just to have a functioning business. And sometimes I feel like there's just so much going on. And I do feel like sometimes, as you said, like there's that thing of putting stuff off, but it's
Mm,
not like being lazy putting stuff off, or it's like, let me go sit on the couch and not do it. It's
right.
really that prioritization or figuring out where my time should be, or I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, those things just sit on my to-do list forever because it's the first thing I put off, but sometimes it's the things I put off that light me up the most.
Yeah. No, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's exactly what great work is really about. It's about, and it isn't about only doing things in your day that you love, right? Like we do all have to like pay our taxes, and nobody that I know really loves sitting down to fill out that paperwork, but we have to do it. So it's not about every minute of every day lighting you up, but instead making sure that your time is aligned, both the boring parts and the interesting parts and the parts that take a lot of effort and the parts that don't, aligning as much of that as possible to the things that you really do want to spend your life doing. So
Yes.
sometimes, and then it makes that less interesting stuff, that kind of boring or hard or like downright distressing stuff that we all do have to do, it makes it worth it because we know that it's moving us towards what actually matters the most to us.
Yes. Yeah, something it reminds me of like two different things. Like when I remember talking to a career coach once and really going through kind of like what are my strengths, what are my skills, like what brings me happiness in everything that I've done. And we were going through and we created a list of things and then she was like, "Here's a list of jobs where you can go that really focus on that." And I remember like looking at that list and immediately being like, "Ugh, no." And then I realized that there was actually some stuff where it's like understanding that there's a difference between I'm good at it and I can tolerate it and I like it being a
Yes.
part of my job, but I don't want it to be my entire job. So, like, for example, I love looking at processes and kind of fixing processes and changing processes and finding those things, but I didn't want to have a career being kind of like
Mm,
the process improvement department and everything, where that's my entire job is project after project after project of improving these processes within like a corporation. I was just like, no, no, no. I like it when I have the ability to do that within my job. I don't want that to be my job. So sometimes it's like, for
mm,
me, it was realizing that too. It's like, what do I actually want the main focus to be? And what do I like as a component? And then what do I not want to do at all? But then
yeah.
this kind of brings me to the other thing that I was thinking of is like sometimes those things that we don't really like at all, we have to do as part of our job because it's part of that big package, especially as a business owner. But I remember years and years and years ago when I was managing a team, I remember having conversations with some of my team members. It was like, okay, let's talk about what you like about your job and let's talk about what you don't like about your job. And I remember a team member going to me, I don't want to tell my manager which parts of my job I don't like. And I'm just, and I feel like it might be held against me. And I was like, no, no, no. I was like, that's not why I'm asking about it. I was like, because we were having conversations around career goals and career paths. And this was in a large corporate organization where there was many different ways that they could go. And I said, I want to make sure that when we're talking about career growth, that we know the difference between this is something that I can tolerate as long as it's a small part of my job versus this is something that drives me crazy and I want nothing to do with it versus this is
Hmm.
something that if it's 50% of my job, I'm going to enjoy it. So if you hate this
Mm,
one little thing,
how can we look at it to say, okay, but you're always going to have to do that. So how do we make sure it's a little part of your job versus the main job? Or maybe we should avoid these career paths because they're not gonna light you up. You're gonna be miserable even if you are temporarily happy.
Hmm. And I think that that conversation that you're having with your team is the same conversation really you have to have with yourself. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
like career crafting or shaping, I guess is a good word for it. Long term, over the course of a lifetime, you're going to do a lot of things. And some of them you're going to move into it thinking, I do want to be the quality improvement person. And you move into it and you do it for a couple of years. And by the end, you're like, I cannot handle any more of this. But you don't like leave it behind. It's not like a part of yourself is like cut off and thrown away. It's like, no, you take that into the next one with more information about yourself that, like what you just said, like now you know that this is
Mm-hmm.
something I love having a skill set to bring to the table, but I don't want it to be the only thing I'm doing. That self-expertise, which is a big part of great work, is a really important thing that grows out of a lifetime of doing great work and doing your best to align your time to it and accepting that nothing's ever perfect and you're learning about yourself and the way you make change and what causes you to procrastinate and what you don't want to say to your boss and how to ask for what you need. Like all of those skill sets give you information so that as you move through your life, you get closer and closer to what is a good fit for you, and what is moving you in the direction of the stuff that you're genuinely passionate about. But over the course, nothing's ever perfect. Nothing's ever completely,
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're looking for. And that's okay.
Right. Right. And I think one of the things that just came to my mind there was a conversation I've been having with some of my clients when it comes to hiring. Like when we look at people's resumes, and sometimes we'll say, well, this person hasn't been on this exact path. Why do
Mhm.
they want to change? Why do they want to move? And sometimes I'll say, okay, well, let's not disqualify someone just because they've been on a different path, depending on like what the position is and what really we determine is essential for someone to know to go into this position. And like,
Mhm.
so sometimes we need to have that conversation. So, for example, I was recently helping a client that they are filling in a sales position. And this is a sales position. It has no leadership to it. They're like, we just need like someone who is hungry and wants to sell. We were
Yeah.
getting a lot of people that were sales leaders that were applying. And some of them I would talk to, and you could tell that management was at the core. Everything they did, it was talking about building up teams and things like that. And I got to the point I was just like, oh, do I even bring in more people that have been in sales leadership positions to interview? Because I was like, I'm tired of like automatically finding out you're not right for this role because this is zero management. We just need someone that's hungry to sell. Finally,
Mhm.
talking to someone, and their thing was, I went into sales leadership because I was on this growth path and the opportunity was there. And the more I was in it, the more I realized
Mhm.
I don't want to be managing people. I want to be on the ground selling. So it was like real,
Yeah.
like like you said, like some people need to do the thing to realize they don't want to do that thing anymore. That it's like, no, 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 my skills are better over here. But I only
Mhm.
really realized that that's what lights me up and that's what I'm passionate about because I tried something else.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that that's an interesting, like, that's true even inside of, like, even if you're in a good job, like, that really is a good fit, like, you're selling and you want to be selling, or you're managing and you want to be managing, but you're still going to face challenges, even when you're doing the perfect role with the perfect description. And then it's a question of, like, there are other things to know about yourself, like, what causes you to check out, like what causes you to procrastinate, what makes you sort of freeze or flight, whatever the different problems you find yourself having in the flow of your work. Learning about yourself and your self expertise and the way that great work interacts with just your personality and your life stage. Things are different when you're a mom of young kids than it is when you're a single young person with no kids or an empty nester and your kids are gone, right? Like even that just changes the way that you interact. So that's honestly what I find most interesting, is helping people become like students of themselves and their own way of doing great work, and then working with others to come together to do great work on a team.
Yeah. So I guess like I think we've talked about it a little bit, but let's talk more about this concept of great work. And you say like you
Mhm.
work a lot with people to figure that out. So let's talk a little bit more about that so we make sure people are really clear on what great work is and how to get started like on that process.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So great work is the way I define it, which I recognize is challenging. It's like the work that matters the most to you. So the first and immediate question is, I don't know what matters the most to me. Because a lot of people, and school does this, school sort of crafts this mindset. A lot of jobs craft this mindset where it doesn't matter what you want, it matters what I asked you to do. And so, as people, we learn that sort of undercurrent message, and then we often shut down things that fall outside of what I've been asked to do, or what I'm expected to do, or what is in my job description, or what's going to get me a good grade, like whatever phase they're in, right?
Mhm.
And I wrote Great Work largely because I think that a lot of the sort of being told what to do, guaranteed sort of work experiences are in the past. At this point, what's going to really shape the future of work is human ingenuity and interest and passion and connection. Because of the world of AI and automation and globalization and all of that has created fewer and fewer jobs where you're going to be told exactly what to do and you get to be successful by doing exactly what you're told. But a lot of people just, they're not prepared to put forward what they want. They don't even necessarily remember what they want. So, great work is a call to remember what you want and believe that it matters. And sometimes that's a little bit of rewiring of old messaging that it doesn't matter. So, sometimes people, often, almost always, people come to me and they say, I don't know what my great work is. And so there are questions that are in the book but I'll share them with you now. Some of them like that help you to kind of find an inkling that over time, once you sort of orient yourself towards trying to uncover what your great work is, get closer to it, choose opportunities that are aligned with it, it'll all become clearer and clearer over time. But one of the main things that tells you what your great work is, especially if you've been ignoring it, is if you've ever seen somebody get some kind of accomplishment that you yourself would want, and you have an almost out of body experience of jealousy or envy. Like, I can't believe that that person has a New York Times best-selling book, or why is this person getting all of this engagement on their post, or why did that person get the promotion, or like when that happens, that's a very strong clue that there's something deep inside of you that is just not being heard that really is important for you to express. I've seen people who have completely cut themselves off from their great work, and they're just doing what sort of like whatever job their dad got them when they were first out of college has led to like another job because now they're experienced in it, which led to a management position in that space because they've been there forever. And then they're like 40 and they're like, what am I doing with my life? But now I've been doing this for 40 years. At every point, though, everyone feels like it's out of their control. You're a young person, you're like, I don't have any experience. No one will give me an opportunity. If you're an older person trying to do a career change, you feel like this is all I know how to do. We always are sort of caught by those expectations. If we give in to only doing what other people have told us we should do, and it's not what we love. Some people are lucky, they love what they're good at, right? But if
Mhm.
not, it's almost like you feel like you watch people sort of fade to gray. They're just cynical. They burn out more easily. They
Right.
don't love their coworkers. But even doing a little bit of great work, this is the great news. Like if you feel like you're in that place, if you do even just a little bit of it, ask for one opportunity, go do it on your own time. Like feed some part of you that's yours, and you can spark right back to life, even if your external circumstances don't change. Sometimes you have to stay in the job you're in. Sometimes you do. And that's okay as long as you're nurturing that great work some other way. And then over
Right.
time, because nothing lasts forever, you will have the opportunity to move in the direction. So when that opportunity comes, move in that direction of your great work and you'll start to feel better.
Yeah, yeah, I love all that. It's reminds me of one of the career coaches I've talked to in the past of her just saying, sometimes a lot of people get into these careers because it's what they've been told to always do. If you have a family where everyone's a doctor and a lawyer, you're expected to become a doctor and a lawyer. And if you don't, you're the black sheep of the family. So what do most
Yeah.
people do? They go into those career paths, whether it lights them up or not, and then sometimes they're miserable there and
Hmm.
and things like that. And I think this is also important as we're leading teams within our own businesses. It's sometimes as small business owners, we get in this mindset of, I have this great person on my team. I'm just going to do anything that keeps them, and who cares what the role is? They're just amazing and they need to stay with me. And if they leave me, I'm going to hate them for it. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We got like, I understand it's very time consuming to hire. I understand that's time consuming to onboard someone and get someone back up to speed. And you want to keep that institutional knowledge and you want to keep those great employees. But we also need to recognize that sometimes the roles we have in our business are not right for everyone. And they might reach a point where this position has morphed into a way that is now disconnected from the person who is in there. And that person has a right to be in a job that matches like their great work, what matters to them, what lifts them up. And sometimes we have to support our team members, even if that means they need to leave us.
Yeah, it's true. I think that there's an interesting situation, especially with small business owners who probably are doing their great work, right? Something about what it's so hard to have a business and grow it that it must be something that you had some deep connection to. You hope, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's a different problem. But assuming that the small business owner is doing something that they're deeply passionate about, then they want to collaborate with somebody else, right? They want to bring someone else into their great work, but it's really, really challenging. So much so that the second edition of Great Work was released because that collaboration piece wasn't in the first edition. So the second edition has a whole model of collaboration, but one of the most interesting sort of undercurrents of it that I found in the psychological research is that it requires this, new level, new devil, right? You've got this person, you're trying to be a manager and you were like a solo person for a long time. We have to learn how to hold what we need at the same time that we stay open to what the other person needs and wants and is searching for. And it's actually very hard. People actually flip-flop between these two perspectives. They're either micromanaging because they're thinking about what they need, they're thinking about when they need it and how they need to like get this person to do what they want. That's like very much I'm the one. Or they sort of flip-flop their perspective into the other person's doing what you just described, which is like, anything you want, what do you care about? Like, tell me what you're passionate about. I will craft the job for you. And it can be very confusing, actually. We sometimes call it the founder's dilemma, where it's like a
Mhm.
founder is really bad at this. They really don't know how to find the right person to fit the need they have while still being good at getting the other person's needs met. And it is a skill set that requires like both things to be held equally at the same time, which is quite hard psychologically for most people to do. But in order to bring somebody into your great work, which is the work you care the most about, so you're going to care a lot, so you're going to be really tempted to like micromanage or, all these less than ideal managerial styles. But instead, what we have to do is think about that person's great work and try to find a way, if you can, to bring some part of that into your great work and then figure out how to communicate clearly what you need while still connecting. If their great work isn't connected to your great work, it's probably not a good fit. But if there's
Right.
some way to tie it in, that again makes it possible for that person to feel really good about working with you, even if every single piece of their job is not ideal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, so I just remember like as you talked about like sometimes business owners like we're really horrible at this. And I see it like so many times where businesses they focus so much on keeping the people, they don't have the positions that really are needed for their business. And we really need to focus, do we have the right seats? And then do we have the
Mm-hmm.
right people for those seats? And it is so hard because it's so hard to tell somebody I no longer have a place for you in my business because where you align and what I need are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And and I think it's just like, how do we go approach that? And I just like I always teach people it's like you got to approach it with transparency and grace. And you got to approach it if this is a person that's been really great for you, their position doesn't need to disappear overnight. Can you do a ramp down? Can you do I will
Mhm.
this position's going to go away in 60 days. In the next 60 days, we're going to focus on ramping down this position. You have all the time you want to go interview someplace else. I will encourage you, if you get a
Mm.
job, you can leave before that 60-day mark, but just so you know, this position will be done in 60 days. I remember doing that for one of my employees because I got into one of those things with my business. I realized I was following the revenue versus actually growing the business that I wanted. And so
Ah.
one of the team members that I had hired, I looked at it and said, if I stop taking on this type of project, I don't have the work for her to do at the amount of hours that she has been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what am I going to do? Because I'm not going to pay someone to only work 50% of the hours that she's supposed to be working and still pay her the same as she's been before. And so I had a conversation with her and it was, here's the options. I can cut
Mm-hmm.
your hours. So you're going to go from 20 hours a week to 10 hours a week because it was a part-time role. I can transition you to something else in the business,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to be very clear. It's not what I hired you for. So you might not want to do it, but here's what the other position is that's available where you could do 50% of your hours doing what you're currently doing, 50% of your hours in this other area, or you can leave the organization and I will help you, encourage you to find another job. You got 60 days before the position's eliminated. I'll keep you at the same hours for the next 60 days. And she came back and said that she was going to leave because she didn't want to do the other type of work. And for her, she needed at least 20 hours of work in order to bring in the money that was needed for her household. So she's like, the other two options don't work. My only option is to go and get a different job. And
Yeah.
so, but we were able to have that conversation and we were able to have be transparency around like why it was happening and things like that, which from at least my point of view made that blow a little softer that her job was changing and eventually going
Yeah.
to she was probably going to have to leave.
And even if the blow isn't particularly soft, because that's the other person, right? Like they are going to have their feelings and they're going to
Hmm.
handle them, right? That's their job.
Right.
But the good thing that came of that also that maybe wasn't obvious in the moment, but probably she considered it even more as time went on is you modeled for her what it looks like to do what's necessary to be in alignment with your great work. Because you
Yeah.
said to her, right? Like, what we've been doing isn't working for me. This is my business. I have to craft my life so that I'm moving in the direction of doing what I really want to spend my time doing. And she probably wasn't super in love with the idea of her life changing because of it. But later, she probably was like, if this happens to me, I've now seen what it looks like to communicate with grace and transparency to another person and kind of teach them what it looks like when you're the person like in pursuit of your great work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well done.
Yes. All right. Now I want to kind of switch to something else that you've mentioned a few times throughout your definitions and through the examples you give. Procrastination. What
Yeah.
do you mean when you refer to procrastination?
Yeah, great question. So in the TEDx talk, which I'll give you the link, you can stick it in the show notes or whatever.
Perfect.
Um, it we talk about procrastination being another word for it is defensive failure. So when we do great work, productive failure, which is where you do it and do it badly and get better, is part of it. It just is. You are going to fail. If you're doing something new and you don't
Mhm.
know how to do it, you're going to do it badly at first. That's just how it is. But most people are so avoidant of productive failure that they actually engage in a whole suite of behaviors that I call defensive failure. They are
Yes.
defending you against productive failure. So they are actually essentially the reasons you're not doing anything at all. So there's like mindsets, like you think that some people, like let's say you one of these sales managers lands in a sales role that you were talking about, and they cannot bring themselves to actually make the cold calls, right? Like they've taken the job, they're sitting in the seat, they have to make calls, and they just can't bring themselves to do it. Why? That's defensive failure. That's failing by doing nothing so you don't fail and look bad, right? One of
Right.
the reasons is that they might think some people are salespeople, but I'm not. I thought I could be. I desperately needed this job. I totally convinced them. I convinced myself for a minute. But the truth is, I am not the kind of person who can sell, right? So, like that
Hmm.
mindset makes people engage in defensive failure because our mind, our brain will not do things that are hard if it, which is to say you, don't believe that it can succeed, that you can succeed. So if you believe that some people are salespeople and you just aren't, then you are very likely to be engaging in procrastination behaviors. Also, if you feel like some people are like this, but I'm not, which is a belonging thing. It's like my friends are going to think I'm a weirdo if I'm a salesperson, or the people I'm talking to are going to hate me because they're going to think I'm pushy. That sort of like belonging part of the tribe situation can also force you to engage in procrastination. And then there's just the fact that you don't want to. So if you really kind of don't want to be a salesperson, then doing the hard thing is less likely to happen. So often, if somebody has really struggled with something for their whole life, whether that's math or exercise or sales or writing or whatever, all three of them are probably at play. And they probably have this like deep frustration with themselves. I've tried and tried and tried. And every time I, experience goalmnesia, which is my term for like setting a goal and then not doing it, but not even remembering that you had that goal. Like,
Right.
I'm going to go to the gym 3 times this week. And then it's the end of the week and someone's like, how was the gym? And you're like, what are you talking about? You know, that, that's goalmnesia. But like that's what procrastination looks like. It looks like sitting down and cleaning your desk instead, or not sitting down and watching, I'll just watch this quick. I really wanted to finish Department Q. So I'm gonna just watch the last episode before I sit down and do it. Or sitting down and cleaning out your inbox instead of actually making the cold calls or whatever it is that you're
Right.
seeking to do.
Yes. Oh, you were talking. I was like, yep, I think I've done all those. Like, especially like I remember early on in my business and trying to do some like launches, like the big launches you hear about all the time in businesses, and
Yeah.
they would always fail. But part of it was I didn't do the work that really was needed. It was just like,
Mhm.
well, yes, I put out that one social media post,
Right.
but then I didn't do the rest because that one post didn't get what I wanted. So then it was just like
Yes.
the rest are going to fail too. And it's kind of like you said, that defensive
Yeah.
failure was like, if I don't do it,
Right. Then I can't
then I can't.
see the evidence. And that's especially true for a small business owner or anybody doing great work, right? Whether they're like writing a book or trying to be an advocate or building a business or something of their own. Like we are so desperate for this to work because we care so much about it. If someone
Right.
was like said to me like, Amanda, go start a dental practice, I could probably do that with very little procrastination because I don't actually care whether I'm a successful dentist. So I could matter of factly learn how a dental practice is set up, just go set it up. It would, whatever would happen, I would want the money, but like not really care so much about the like mission. And I'd probably be more successful than if all my life, all I care about is teeth. I just love to look at teeth. I love to learn about teeth. Teeth is my life. And I go to try to set up a dental practice, I'm much more likely to procrastinate. That's the hard thing. The things we matter that matter to us the most, like our own business, built on the river of the banks of the river we love, it's like, I do not want to find out that nobody cares about my launch. So there's this
Right.
sort of psychological kind of uh, e- conversation that we have to have with ourselves to get through these challenges because they do not go away.
That is so interesting because in my mind, like I see now that I hear from you, like what you're referring to with it, but to me, I'd be like, that doesn't make sense. I'd be more likely to procrastinate setting up a dental practice if I don't care about it because I don't care about it. It's like, so why
Yeah.
would I put all the time and effort into something I don't care about versus something I actually want to do? But the way you described it more, it was just like, I don't want to learn that no one cares about what I care about. So I'm going to stand in my own way in a way of like not getting things done. I'm like, oh, that makes sense when you dive like deeper into that. And gosh, like I would say I am probably guilty of that a lot of the time. And I think it is one of those things where it's like, even when I talked about before, like there's the path of my business that I really want to be on. And then
Hmm.
there's where I bring in all my revenue and they don't always line up. And it's just like, but I need to do more over here in order to get this type of business.
Right.
And then I find myself just focusing on that other stuff because it's like, okay, well, it's coming to me and I don't have to do it. But I think it's like what you talked about. Like, I don't want to know that no one cares about that side of my business. If I don't launch it, if I don't focus on it and I get no clients in that area, like
Yeah.
it's like, okay, but I didn't do anything. So how can I expect
Mhm.
anything? But if I put all this work into that part of my business and I get no clients, then it's like, it's a whole different level of feeling
Yeah.
like I
Now what? Who
failed.
am I? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and just to be clear, no one should start a dental practice if they don't care at least a little bit about teeth.
Right.
But it's just like, I think what you just described is closer to the truth, where it's like there's a piece of it that you become comfortable with. And it might have been that that thing that now you feel kind of bored by. I'm not saying you're bored with your business, but like,
Hmm.
like maybe you're a little bored. You just know you can do it. It's not that hard. It's not that exciting, but it's comfortable and it doesn't, that's really more like we just hide inside of our, what we can already do, even when we look over to this thing that we're like, I want to talk about that. I want to know those people. That's where I want to be spending. It's very vulnerable to do great work, but it is the human experience, right? Like to create something from our own essence, right? Like our unique experience, our point of view, like the people we know, to create that is so satisfying. Like that's really what it is to be a fully expressed human. And we all want that. And I think it's
Right.
great that, I have things in my business that I'm just very comfortable doing. I'm still doing them because they're the economic engine to make the great work possible. That there's nothing wrong with that. But if you feel
Right.
like all you do is spend your time looking over there hoping that it will be someday it'll just show up, that just does not what happens typically.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love all this. Like, I feel like we're diving into so many good stuff, so many stuff like that I really need to hear right now. Like, I'm loving all this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're getting to the point that, we're going to have to start to wrap up. But before that, is there
Yeah.
any other words of wisdom that you would like to share? If like people are like me and like really resonating with what you're saying, anything else that you think would be that thing that we need to hear right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the number one thing is to take a little bit of a leap of faith and believe yet your great work, whatever it is, whatever has like popped its head over the hedge and is waving to you like, "Hi, I'm here I am," that it matters, that you do it, that it's important that you do it, that you'll feel better if you do it, that you can do it, that if it's waving to you over the hedge, you are meant to do it. It's meant to be a part of your story. And then
Hmm.
once you believe and start to like even a little bit move in that direction, I have found that like synchronicity in your community and the universe and whatever starts to like present you with opportunities to move closer to it. But first, you have to believe that it matters.
Right. Yes. Ooh, I love that. All right,
Mm.
Amanda, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So I think the very best thing to do is to download the first chapter of Great Work. So on my website, it's my name, amandacrowell.com/great dash work. Let me put that in show notes too. Um, there's a free download for the first, it includes the author's preface to the second edition, the introduction, and the first chapter. So it will really give you a taste of what the book is about. So I would go download that right away, read it. If it works for you, maybe consider buying the book. It's available on my website and also on Amazon worldwide, of course. And just start reading and see if it resonates with you. And if it does, give your like email me and let me know that you're on the path, you're moving towards your great work. And, maybe then you can come to an event or we can connect on LinkedIn. But step one, I would say, read chapter one.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. And that link will be in the show notes. All right. So, my final question that I love to ask all my guests, we've all had leaders throughout our life that have stood out to us. Think of a leader who has stood out to you and share one thing about them.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this since you mentioned it before we got on. And it's, not to be a broken record, but I do think that the leaders that I loved working with, even when they were difficult people, because I've worked with I feel like I've worked with a lot of passionate people who are kind of difficult, when they took the time to get to know who I was and what I really cared about and gave me opportunities to move in that direction. I felt like I can handle a lot of micromanaging and big egos if I feel at least I'm in the conversation. What I
Right.
care about matters.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And that's like kind of, we all want to feel like what we care about matters. So I do feel like that is a great aspect of being a good leader is helping
Mm,
your team members feel like they matter, the things they care about matter, that it's not just about you and your business, that they
yeah.
are a part of that and you care about them.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today on the Growing Your Team podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of the Growing Your Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss new episodes. And if your favorite podcast app has the ability, leave a review and let us know what you love about the show. As you wait for the next episode, be sure to follow Growing Your Team on Instagram at Growing Your Team, or head on over to growingyourteam.com to access more resources and learn how growing your team can support you as you master the art of hiring.